Yeah, until I had some of those things in place, all I could think of was, stop the clock. I don't think I can do this. I'm Matt Cumming, a graphic designer, author, songwriter, and massive fan of all things stylish and creative. When I discovered the remarkable results that everyday people like me were achieving through the Australian Institute of Creative Design's fashion mentoring program, I instantly knew that I had to give it a go to see if I could turn my own secret lifelong dream of creating a fashion label into a reality. But to really put it to the ultimate test, I decided to squeeze their normal program into an insanely short time frame. So I'll be fast-tracking 12 months worth of research, planning, branding, design, web development, production, marketing, customer service, growth management, and so much more to see if I can build a brand new fashion label from scratch in just 12 weeks. So join me for 84 crazy days to watch every single step of the agony and ecstasy unfold throughout my 12-week fashion launch. Well, while this second week was nothing quite as intense as the first week, that's for sure, but there was a lot that had to happen, a lot that got done, thankfully. Actually, I'm incredibly relieved at this point just because I feel like I've got some forward momentum finally after this week has passed. The week started off as usual with my mentoring call, and on that call we covered things like basically, keeping moving forward with the supply chain, getting everything set up, the importance of getting that finalized, now rather than waiting too long and not having enough lead time for production. Also, we spoke about, other things that we hadn't discussed before, things like packaging and, starting to think about scheduling for things like photo shoots and styling, those sorts of aspects, which I'm very excited that I believe that the college, the Australian Institute of Creative Design, is going to help me with some of those aspects, which is amazing. So I'm very excited about that. Some of the challenges that I've been faced with this week, or at least in terms of consideration, are promotions. How on earth am I going to promote this brand, build this brand in such a short period of time? Obviously, I can leverage social media in some way, but the truth is I don't want to have to spend too much on advertising. So there are considerations there that I'm finding particularly challenging at this point. Other challenges include things like ensuring that the production schedule sticks to its timeline. This is something that's actually pretty concerning because within such a short time frame, I really don't have any room for error. I maybe have, a week up my sleeve. I've got 2 weeks to order in the fabric. It's going to take 2 weeks to produce the shirts, but I also need a week before production to actually make a sample and check that fits right, that it looks right, and that everything, that I'm happy with every aspect of that. But if there's a problem with the sample, and if there's something wrong with the design, and I have to go back and revisit that element and pattern making and creating another sample, that could throw it out by a week. Now that extra week I just don't have. I think the final challenge for me this week is simply staying healthy. I've had way too much coffee, not enough sleep, and falling back into some bad dietary habits just to keep my energy moving along. So hopefully for my own sake, next week I'll be able to do better on that score. So this week after my call, I spoke directly with China, with a supplier in China. And as a great fallback option, it looks like that he can produce the number of shirts that I want, a small number of shirts, which is fantastic. The only problem with that is that what I've also discovered is that China thrives on face-to-face contact, which makes it very difficult when you're trying to organize things in a hurry from a distance. So as much as I would love to jump on a plane, head on over to China, hang around Nanjing and meet with some people, it's just not going to happen in this time frame and within my budget. So that situation was making me feel very nervous, even though I was excited that I had somebody finally on board that could make the shirts and the minimum order quantity that I was looking for, and obviously at a reasonable price. There was still something in my gut that I felt uncomfortable about. So on Monday, I took a day off work and I got in my car and I drove all over Brisbane, back and forth, back and forth. I think I crossed the Story Bridge, 3 times, but it was worth it in the end. I was able to nail down a fabric supplier, a trim supplier, I even had a look at some packaging, and most importantly, I was able to get in touch and meet with somebody who can produce the quality of shirts that I want to produce right here in Australia, in Brisbane. So I'm very excited about that. That means that my whole supply chain is now within Australia. Price-wise, it was obviously quite different to, say, making the shirts overseas. In fact, at a bare minimum, I would estimate at least twice the price to manufacture here in Australia. But I think given the time frame that I've got and the fact that I'm a complete control freak, it's going to work out well in this space and time. Perhaps afterwards, once the 12 weeks is over and I have things in place and momentum growing with the brand, then perhaps I could consider manufacturing offshore. But certainly at this stage, I'm very happy that everything is going to be done right here in Australia. I think what's really giving me the buzz this week is simply the relief. The relief that things are moving forward. That I've got people on board now that can help me produce the shirt locally in Australia. That means I've got more control. I can see the process in action, and I can jump in quickly if something isn't right. That's going to save me a lot of time, a lot of stress, a lot of hassle, and so I'm really happy about that aspect. So some of the things that I've learned this week are, firstly, that the big guys like big orders. What that means is that my minimum order quantity was just simply too small for some of the high quality producers that I was initially shooting for. Another thing that I learned this week is that you have to ask regarding timeframes. Firstly, when I spoke to people, I would find out details about the quality of their fabrics, the quality of their production and so on, but I wouldn't actually ask about timeframes. Now, obviously, with something as crucially short a timeframe as this, that was the one thing that I should have done right up front, and it would have actually clarified a lot of things because I could have written some people off straight away that weren't going to be able to do it in the timeframe that I needed. Also, discovering that that Chinese culture thrives more on a face-to-face interaction than email, obviously because English is a second language, but also just from a cultural perspective. That was an interesting thing that perhaps if I had have known from the start, I would have done things a little bit differently, maybe got on Skype a little bit more, communicated face-to-face rather than trying to email everybody, which is what I normally would do. This week has shaped me, I guess, in a way of creating more focus and also persistence. Just keep on keeping on. Push through even when, things feel a bit stuck, which they have done at different times in the last 2 weeks. Okay, so that's week number 2 down. I'm 14 days down, 60 days to go, and I'm feeling pretty positive, but still, it seems like so much ahead. Next week, I have to get my sample made, order fabrics and trims, do the grading for the different pattern sizes, also start to consider launch tactics, marketing, promotions, and things like that. So I'm on the way, but still a long way to go.